My name's Rachel Lockley. I work at St Thomas's in New Hay, Rochdale. I am the Class 5 teacher and my class is a mixed class and it's a Year 5 and 6 class. What happened was the parent governors were looking into us having some kind of tablets, and they were looking at the best way for us to have them, and learning by questions, they looked into that and they came up with they'll supply it to Class 5 and Class 4. So both classes, the higher end of school, have got the tablets. Well, we was asked to go in. We didn't know they was coming in because it was like a surprise for us. So Mrs. Williams surprised us and this gentleman came in with all these tablets and this equipment, sat with us, and he was showing us things, and I was sat there going, ooh, ooh. So it looks really good. He went through guided reading, maths and some grammar. I was thinking about we could fill gaps, use it as a revision tool, use it as a holding activity for children, teach with it. And it was like up to date, modern. Children love tablets, love working with IT. So I was like, this could work really well. Well, we use it every single day without fail. The first thing the children do in the morning is they come in and they get their tablets out. They love working with them. So due to the COVID, our morning timetable is totally scattered. We used to start school at 9 o'clock. We now start at 9:05, but it's a staggered start because children are coming in from 8:30. So the best way to hold them to get something to do and to make sure the time's not wasted is they go on to learning by questions and onto the tasks. So as soon as they come in, it keeps them quiet, keeps them down. And then the activities that I'll use are, if we've covered a topic like we had done 2 weeks ago on ratio, then I'll revisit it 2 or 3 weeks later to see if they've remembered it. And if not, as you go through learning by questions, it reminds you how to do it and then you get a second chance. So the children are always learning. And when you ask them if they like it, they love working with it. During after break, we'll have grammar. So sometimes I will go up there and I'll do a quick fire with them, but other times I'll put something onto the learning by questions so that they can have the quick fire and they go over things and they're getting instant feedback through there. And also it fits into the grammar papers or the SATs papers and the knowledge that they need to use. So there's assessments on there and things as well, so they can do those. During arithmetic questions or the whole class teaching, I will put up the learning by questions and the teaching part, and the children will work on the whiteboards. They'll read the question and they'll either work in pairs and answer it together or they'll work independently. And then they'll do 1, 2, 3, show me, and they all put the whiteboards up. They'll give me the answer, I'll type it in, and it's like, ooh, have you got it right, have you got it wrong? And then we'll, if it comes up correct, we'll move on. If not, we'll question why. But it's instant assessment. You can see where the children are up to. So then we'll move on through the questions. So when they're individually on the tablet, I'll set the tasks. So you can have 3 tasks. It's task 1, task 2, task 3. And the children will set off on task 1 and they work their way through. And as they're doing it, I've got the big screen up with either the names in numbers, because sometimes children are like, I don't want my name up there, miss. Or you can flick and you can see who's getting the red, the green, the amber, and if there's a pattern and let's say there's 7 that have got amber and they've got it on the second attempt, I'll pause it and go back to it and ask them what's going wrong, why they're not getting it. And then if there's one child who's getting really stuck, rather than singling them out and doing a whole class, I'll go to that child on their own and speak to them. So from whole class teaching, what we'll do first is we'll do the whole class teaching on the boards, where they'll do the 1, 2, 3 and they'll show me the answer. And once I'm happy that they're secure and they can go off on their own, is then when they will swap to working on their own on the iPads individually, and then I can instantly assess them. The children are working at their own pace, so they're not under pressure to get it done because they don't have to complete all 3 tasks. What they need to do is complete the first set of questions within that activity, and then anything over and above that then is a bonus. So the children are learning that if they get something wrong, to re-look at it because they get a second attempt and they can have a third attempt. The children absolutely love it. They love working at their own pace, and not only that, other children can't see what they're doing or what they're struggling with, so it's their own little targets within themselves. Learning by questions, because it's on the tablets, the children are not having to write. So that barrier sometimes that you have for children to put the work into the book and to lay it out in the presentation, they don't have to do, because all they're doing is putting the answer into the book. And when you ask them if they're enjoying it and if they're learning, miss, yes, and the hands are going up. What you find, because it is a year 5, 6 mixed class, you've got the higher year 5s in there and you've got the higher year 6s. So the children that are struggling, the learning by questions helps those, because they're getting the repetition, because you're going over subjects. Before you introduce a topic, sometimes I just put it onto the learning by questions to see what the children do. So it's not as scary as when you show them in the books what they are actually doing. One of the things that I like is during like a guided reading session, as the questions come up, you can see that which children are getting it wrong. And if it's constantly read, they're struggling with it. So what you can do is you can go onto the teacher's board, bring up that question, and you can also bring up their answers, their responses, and then you can see what they've put. So then you can say, well, why have you put this and why have you put that, and what is the right answer? So you can start to get them to think about it, and by looking at other children, and then they go, oh yes. I feel that since I've had learning by questions, my workload, work-life balance has eased, because it fills in gaps and it helps children and it helps me, and it's also fitting in with the curriculum. As a teacher, it allows you to go into each subject. So you go into numeracy, and then in the numeracy it's broken down into the topics that are taught for that age group. In fact, it covers all the primary topics, so it goes over from year 1 up to year 6, and if I haven't covered something, it jumps out at me. And if children are struggling at like a year 5 level or a year 6, I can go lower down, go back to the year 3, year 4 level, put it onto the children to make sure they're solid in that before then going back up through the steps. So it's covering things that I haven't really got time to cover in the teaching as much as I'd like to, but learning by questions, by allowing them to finish my maths activity or my English and then go to learning by questions, they're covering that piece of work. It just saves a lot of time. You're not photocopying, so you're saving on the photocopying bill. You're not getting paper around the classrooms. You're not having the children tidying up. It just saves a lot of time, a lot of stress, and I love them. I love it. I really, really do, because I can log on a Monday morning and I can set all the work for the week. So I can do 3 activities for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 15 activities, and the whole week's done. And it's literally click, 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 click. And there's no photocopying, there is no marking, and I'm sat at my desk, or you can even do it sat on the sofa at home. It's just amazing. During lockdown, we use learning by questions every day, like we would do in a school day. And I set the code up in the morning. I put it onto the school spider where the code was set, so the children knew to log on there, and they had 3 activities. And the activities linked into what the children were learning, and I used it in the exact same way as I would in the classroom. So I went over revision, it helped with that day's lesson, or it introduced a new topic. It was brilliant. It helps the children during lockdown, because when they completed the activities at home, you could see which ones they got right, which ones they got wrong, so you could still do your assessments and you could still see where the children were up to. Learning by question fits into the transition for children going up to year 6, because as a teacher, I would like to know what their curriculum is as a year 7. Therefore, I've looked at the learning by questions, because you can access the year 7, year 8 work and see what they're doing next. And also the children that are greater depth in year 6, you can set them year 7 work. On the learning by questions, if you go on to the topic that you want to look at, it actually has assessments, so you can set the children tests on and you're taking away the pressure then of the writing, and they're just doing it straight onto the tablets. Be sulking, because I think it really, really works in the classroom and the children love it, I love it, and I don't want to be without it. As a teacher, it has lessened my workload, and it has helped me make sure that I've followed all the curriculum, because it's there and you think, oh, I've not covered that, because there's a list, and at the side of it, it has a colour to say when you've covered the topic or not, and then you think, oh, so it helps in that way as well. Sure. It's a need in the classroom. it helps and the children love it, and I do. It's quite nice to see the children, because if you press the pause button, they actually pull their faces because you've stopped them. They like to do the questions and keep going, and they don't want to be interrupted. With the pandemic at the moment, what's nice is if the children are at home because they're isolating and they still need the work, they can still do what the children are doing in class, because I can just put the code onto the school spider and they do what the children are doing in class. It's lovely.